All right, so in the last lesson, we looked at just a different way of writing the quadratic formula, which was called the factored form. And in this form, we had the x times the x. That's what was giving us the x squared. That's what gave us the U shape, the parabola shape. These usually involved two terms in each bracket here. Now, the benefit of that factored form is that it gave you the x-intercepts. Right? All you had to do is switch the signs. In this case, -3 and -4, and you had your x-intercepts. So it was really quick to kind of start sketching it out. In our standard form, right, standard form looked like y equals x squared plus something. That form was sometimes easier to plug numbers into. It gave us the y-intercept, but the different forms just give us different information. Today, what we're going to be looking at is how could you convert factored form into a standard form. So for example, let's say I had a factored form like this. Gives me the x-intercepts, that's nice. Let's say I wanted to switch it into a standard form though, because I wanted the y-intercept. Well, this equation here is actually exactly the same as this equation here. If you graphed these two equations out, you would get the same graph. They're just written in different forms. And today we'll look at kind of how we went about doing that. All right, so we call it distribution. So either expanding the brackets or it's called the distributive property is what we're using here. There's two main ways to do it. We're going to start by using the chart to solve it. The reason we use the chart is it's easier to kind of keep track of what's going on. And later on, probably in a week or two, what we'll do is we'll look at doing this backwards. So going from standard form into the factored form. And the easiest way to do that is to use the chart. So you'll see this chart again. If you're comfortable with the other method, you don't have to use the chart, but I think it's worth seeing at least the first few times. And we will see it again in the future. So how do you use the chart to do this? Well, let's start with our first example. X plus 3 times x plus 4. Let's say we wanted to expand this out or convert it into a standard form instead. All we really want to do is multiply these brackets, right? Two brackets touching each other means multiplication. But there's two terms in each bracket. 1, 2, 1, 2. And if you're multiplying these brackets together, every term will multiply by every other term. So we can use the chart to help us. In the top, I'm just going to write one of my brackets. X plus 3. X plus 3. So that's along my columns, and then along my rows, I'll write the other bracket, x plus 4, x plus 4. Then what we do is we fill in the inside of the chart, and to fill it in, you just multiply the row and the column that matches up with that box. And these things are multiplying, right? So in this case, x times x. X times x is x squared, x to the power 2. Next one. This one I'm multiplying 3 and x. 3 times x is 3x. Down here, I'm multiplying x and 4. 4 times x is 4x. And last one, I'm multiplying 3 and 4, which gives me 12. And that's my expanded form. All we need to do is just simplify it down and rewrite it here. So I'll start by just kind of rewriting it here. So I've got x squared, and then I have a plus 3x plus 4x plus 12. Okay, that's my expanded form. That's my standard form. But we can simplify it a little bit further because I noticed that the 3x and the 4x, those are like terms. I don't know what x is standing for, but I have 3 of them, and then I have another 4 of them. So we could join those together into a 7x instead. So we'll just simplify it by joining like terms, x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, and that's it. This equation here is exactly the same as this equation here. It's just this one is in factored form, and this one's in standard form. We've expanded it out. All right, some people don't really like using the chart because it just takes a while to do, right? You have to draw the whole chart out and expand it all out. So there is kind of a shortcut method, and we call it the FOIL method. And FOIL stands for something. It stands for first, outside, inside, and last. All right, so I just rewrote my equation here. Okay, so we're going to go through here, and what this does is as long as you follow this, this is talking about where the terms are they the first terms in the brackets or the outside terms in the brackets. As long as you go through and multiply all of these things, then what you've done is you've multiplied every term in the bracket with every other term in the other bracket. So it's just a way of keeping track of whether you multiplied every term by every other term. In the same way that the chart made sure that we multiplied each term by each other term. So let's go through and do this one. So I'm going to start off by multiplying the first term in each bracket. Remember, terms are separated by a plus or a minus. So the first term in each bracket is x and x. So that gives me x squared. Okay, first is done. Next one, now I'm going to multiply the outside terms in the bracket. So I take the outside one here, right, the outside ones. X times 4 is, so 4x. Done that. Next one, now I multiply the inside terms. Goes to the insides. 3 times x is 3x. And now I multiply the last term in each bracket. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, I'm almost done. I just need to join some like terms together. Once again, 4x plus 3x is 7x. So I'll rewrite it as x squared plus 7x plus 12. And yep, we get the same answer. We should, right? It's the same equation. So that looks good. So this is just a shorter method, right? If you've memorized this FOIL, first, outside, inside, last, it's just the same as doing the chart. It's just a bit of a faster method. So you're welcome to use either one. I recommend maybe using the chart for the first few ones, just because we will see it later on when we do the factoring, when we go backwards. Let's go on to the next one. So at this point, I would say maybe pause the video and see if you can try solving it in both ways, and then you can check back and check your answer. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to try it out. Let's go through here and solve it both ways. Just need to be careful of the negatives here. So first one, using the chart, I'm just going to copy each bracket into the columns and then the rows. So x minus 5 is my first bracket. X minus 2 is my next bracket. And now I go through, multiply each row with each column to fill in the table. X times x, x squared. Negative 5 times x, negative 5x, right? Keep the sign with it. X times negative 2, negative 2x. Negative 5 times negative 2. Negatives cancel, positive 10 plus 10. Multiply each row by each column, each term by every other term. Now we can just rewrite it out. So I just copy each one down. X squared minus 5x minus 2x plus 10. There are some like terms here. I get those 2x terms again. So negative 5x subtracting another 2x. That'll be a negative 7x. So x squared minus 7x plus 10. All right, we're done. That's our expanded form. We've multiplied the brackets. We switched the factored form into a standard form. Your other option would be using FOIL. So I just rewrote my equation one more time. And we'll do that method in case you use that method instead. All right, FOIL. That stands for first. My first terms multiply, and that gives me x squared. First, next is outside. Keep the sign with it. The outside terms multiply. X times negative 2 gives me negative 2x. Now I do insides. Keep the sign. Negative 5 times x gives me negative 5x. And now I do last terms. Watching the signs, negative 5 times negative 2 10, positive 10. And same as before, join our like terms. Minus 2x minus 5x is negative 7x. Okay. So the FOIL is just helping us keep track of multiplying each term by every other term. Next one. Once again, if you want to, you can pause the video and try out the last two. For these ones, I'm only going to solve them using the FOIL method. If you want to use the chart method, that's fine. But for this solution, I'll just use the FOIL method. So I'll let you try those out ahead of time. All right, so let's see what you guys got here. So using FOIL method, I start with the first term in each bracket, x times x, x squared. Outsides, x times 2, 2x. Insides, negative 7 times x, negative 7x. And last, negative 7 times 2, negative 14. All right, I've finished FOIL. Now I join my like terms, plus 2x minus 7x. That should give me a negative 5x. And I'm done. I'm not allowed to join any of these together because they're not like terms, right? This has an x squared, this has an x, this is just a number. So at that point, I'm done. All right, you can check the last one now. Once again, I'll use FOIL. Starting with the first term in each bracket. First terms, x times x is x squared. Outside terms, x times 10 is 10x. Inside terms, negative 14 times x is negative 14x. And last terms, negative 14 times 10 is negative 140. And we do have our two like terms in the middle here we can join. So 10x minus 14x is a negative 4x. And we've multiplied the brackets out. We've expanded it. We are now in standard form instead of factored form.